violence or no other kind of violence.
Get away! I could be at work, at school, in my car, I can still get shot by the police, but I can get shot anywhere.
So it is what it is.
What's good, YouTube? It's a Black Gen Z Mindset. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, and let's get into the video.
Let's turn now to another mass shooting here in America. Over the weekend, a gunman opened fire on a Taiwanese congregation at a California church. Police say 68-year-old David Chou of Las Vegas is a Chinese immigrant who was motivated by his hatred for Taiwan.
Wow. So, guys, we've just got mass shooting after mass shooting going on across the states, man. What is going on? Okay. And this is in Cali, right? And it's supposed to be one of the most strictest places for guns. But we have a rice gremlin going up into a church and shooting it up. These rice gremlins are on demon time.
We've also learned that the name of the man who was killed, California doctor Chang, is being hailed as a hero after trying to stop the gunman. 5 others were injured.
1 person is dead and 5 others injured when a gunman opened fire inside a church in Orange County, California. The shooting happened yesterday inside the Geneva Presbyterian Church. That's 50 miles south of Los Angeles. Several members of the congregation, including the victim, were able to tie the suspect's legs before police arrived. Authorities say had they not, the tragedy could have been much worse.
Wow. So obviously at this church, they put their kung fu skills together and apprehended this other rice gremlin. So that's a good thing, man. That is a good thing. But man, it's getting a little spooky out here. There mass shooting going on and this is my thing. At first we knew who were the main culprits of the mass shootings. All right, we saw time after time these super gremlins, mass shooting here, mass shooting there, but now we got rice gremlins, and we did have the fried rice gremlin in DC that got little to no coverage. But you got dudes trying to push a political movement about Taiwan and China, like, bruh, go over there and do that.
I don't know what he may have had or if he had any additional ammunition, but I think it's safe to say that had people not intervened, it could have been much worse.
During today's press conference, authorities also confirmed the gunman was motivated by hate for people of Taiwanese descent. The Genevieve Presbyterian Church is a primarily Taiwanese congregation. Police have identified the gunman as 68-year-old David Chou of Las Vegas. During today's press conference, police confirm he is a naturalized U.S. citizen from China. It is unclear how long he's been in the U.S. He's booked on 1 count of murder and 5 of attempted murder. He's being held on $1 million bail. A Las Vegas neighbor tells us that he believed Chou had fallen on hard times and had been sleeping in his car. That same neighbor telling us that he hadn't seen Chou since February.
Identified the man suspected. Officials have identified the man suspected of opening fire at a church in Laguna Woods yesterday, killing 1 person and injuring several others.
This as the effort to determine a motive continues. Eyewitness News reporter Eric Resendiz is live at the scene with the latest developments this morning. Eric.
Philip Giovanna, the Orange County Sheriff's Department has identified the suspect as 60-year-old David Chou from Las Vegas in this tragic incident that happened in Laguna Woods, which is mostly a retirement community. The Sheriff's Department also praising churchgoers that stepped in to detain the suspect and help prevent any more injuries and deaths from happening. Take a look at this video. The sheriff.
So this is wild, man. A retirement community. You never would have thought that it would have happened here. I mean, what is going on? All these political mass shootings. Sheesh.
Sheriff's Department says this happened around 1:30 p.m. on Sunday when deputies responded to reports of a man with a gun during a luncheon at the Geneva Presbyterian Church in the 24,000 block of El Toro Road. Officials say deputies found one person dead and 5 people suffering from gunshot wounds. The 5 victims are of Asian descent and their ages range from 66 to 92, mostly critically injured, and were transported to a hospital. This morning, officials saying 2 of the transported victims are now in good condition and their vital signs are stable. Authorities did recover 2 handguns at the scene, and the ATF will be tracing the guns for any leads. Investigators are working to determine whether Chou has a connection to the church. The Sheriff's Department crediting churchgoers for stopping the suspect.
And thankfully, he was not well planned in this attack. Like, he didn't have it well planned, well thought out. Unfortunately, there was a man who was killed, but it's a good thing that he didn't have it like all planned out like Peyton Grendon or whatnot, because it could have gotten a lot uglier, especially in a church. We all know they ain't going to church strapped. So it's a really good thing that they were able to jump down on him and tie him up.
We believe a group of churchgoers detained him and hogtied his legs with an extension cord and confiscated at least 2 weapons from him. He was detained when the deputies arrived. That group of churchgoers displayed what we believe is exceptional heroism and bravery in intervening to stop the suspect. They undoubtedly prevented additional injuries and fatalities.
Our thoughts are to all of the members of that congregation and their families. And I think that we have to think, and I know we do think, the city of Laguna Woods is so pleased. The cities nearby immediately contacted it and wanted to support us. It was so outstanding to have that happen.
ABC News talked to a witness named Ken Lee who was there when the shooting happened. He says once the suspect was out of bullets, their pastor grabbed a chair, knocked the suspect down, and others came to help. Lee also says he did not recognize the suspect. Investigators will be working to find a motive for the shooting to determine if it was hate-related or if the suspect had an intended target. Back out here live, there are still some authorities on scene and still have the area taped up. The FBI is also joining in on the investigation. Chou has been booked on 1 felony count of murder and 5 felony counts of attempted murder. He is being held behind bars. His bail set at $1 million. Chou is expected to appear in court tomorrow. The Orange County Sheriff's Department expected to have a press conference today at noon to give an update.
We are getting a first look inside that Laguna Woods church where a deadly attack took place this weekend. ABC News obtaining these images showing the church pastor and other congregants subduing the alleged shooter.
Wow. Definitely took some courage. Looks like they are implementing the karate and put a whooping on that man. They George Floyded him, had elbows and knees on his neck. So shout out to them.
The alleged shooter. And investigators are now saying the gunman, a Chinese immigrant, was motivated by his hatred of Taiwanese people. Shooter killed a local doctor and wounded 5 others. We have live team coverage. David Gonzalez with more on the doctor and his heroic actions as he attempted to stop the shooter. We begin with Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Granda with the latest on the investigation. Carlos?
And we now know the identity of the shooter. The suspect has been identified as 68-year-old David Chou from Las Vegas. And officials say he drove hundreds of miles from Nevada, and all the while he was planning this attack.
What is it with these guys driving from here and there and golly?
They say it was a politically motivated incident, hate incident, and the suspect, as you said, was a Chinese immigrant, hated Taiwanese people. These exclusive images show the moment when the church members tackled the suspect. They held him and tied him with electrical wire.
We need to get a hold of these Chinese supremacists. All right? Chinese supremacy is one of the biggest issues in America today. These rice gremlins are on demon time.
You can also see a knife.
This shooter had a 2 guns.
Church pastor Billy Chang was there when the shooting started and one of those who subdued the suspect. He told ABC's Matt Gutman he hit the suspect with a chair.
I don't want to reload or he want
They hit him with a chair. Dang, they pulled out the WWE moves. Here I'm thinking they pulling out karate, or they pulling out some kung fu or some, different tactics like that. And they just went, SmackDown versus Raw on them.
to take another gun. I didn't know. I see this moment, I have to take action right away. I see the chairs in my left side. I win the ship to attack the shooter.
It was just before 1:30 p.m. yesterday inside the Geneva Presbyterian Church. The service had ended and people were gathering for a small event. Officials say the suspect was methodical and appeared to plan the attack carefully.
During the lunch, the individual involved, the suspect, was able to secure the doors within the church with chains and tried to disable locks within the church with super glue.
Officials say the suspect stood in front of the church and suddenly opened fire. Churchgoers had to dive under tables and behind pews for cover. When the gunman stopped to reload, that's when Dr. Chang moved in.
Dr. Cheng charged the individual, the suspect, attempted to disarm him, which allowed other parishioners to then intercede, taking the suspect into custody. Without the actions of Dr. Cheng, it is no doubt that there will be numerous additional victims in this crime.
It was tragic. I think that's the only word to describe it. Terrible, because the people who come to the church is supposed to be, be in peace.
Officials say the suspect came to the area from Las Vegas on Saturday. He was not a regular member of this church. Investigators also found other weapons and explosives.
Wow.
We located several bags within the facility. They contained magazines with additional ammo, 4 Molotov cocktail-like incendiary devices.
Dang, did he learn how to make those Molotov cocktails by Prophet of Truth, who did the New York subway shooting? Right? Remember Prophet of Truth 88? I know that story seems super old now, but did he learn how to make his Molotov cocktails from Prophet of Truth? Guys, let me know.
That he had placed around the inside of the church.
5 counts of attempted murder against each of the individuals who suffered gunshot wounds, as well as 4 counts of explosives, unlawful possession of explosives.
And the injured victims, who were 4 men and 1 woman, they're between the ages of 66 and 92. All of them were taken to local hospitals for treatment, and at least 2 right now are in stable condition.
I'm here on the corner of MLK and Medgar Evers, and it's a very tranquil scene compared to just a couple hours ago where a drive-by shooting just took place. Excuse me, I'm getting live updates as we speak. I've just been updated to the amount of casualties from this drive-by shooting, and I'm getting reports that 2 people were actually declared deceased and 27 others were shot and injured but are in stable condition. And although we must pray for the families of the fallen, we must also praise God for the aim of the super gremlin. If you want to know more about the victims of this crime, make sure you add BGZM News 17 on Patreon at www.patreon.com/blackgenzmindset. Also, don't forget to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and comment on the video to continue the discussion on how we can find solutions to all this gun violence in the streets. For more hard-hitting news coverage from the community, by the community, I'm Jenquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia, BGZM News 17.
And cut.
All right, dog. Let's get the out of here before these niggas come back.
Whoa. Yo!
Whoa.
Ain't that nigga J?
Nah, that ain't me. That ain't me.
He just went live
that
with
ain't
that
me.
funky ass suit on.
That's that nigga. That's not me.
Hey, get that nigga.
Jenquavius Jackson, here live, reporting from Atlanta, Georgia. Pray for me.
Morning, Frank. A law enforcement source tells KTLA that the man arrested in connection with this shooting is a 68-year-old man who does not live in this area. They say he drove more than 200 miles to come to a church banquet here and open fire on churchgoers, but they don't know why.
At this time, we do not know what the suspect's motive may be, or whether he had an intended target, or whether this is even a hate-related incident.
The law enforcement source says the suspected gunman is a Taiwanese man named David Chou, whose last known address is in Las Vegas. He doesn't appear to have a criminal record, they say, and detectives still can't figure out why he did what he did. They say Chou drove here to the Geneva Presbyterian Church in Laguna Woods, where members of a Taiwanese congregation were holding a luncheon for a former pastor visiting from Taiwan. They say Chou pulled out a handgun and began shooting people at the banquet. Investigators say the gunman killed one man and wounded 5 others. The victims range in age from 66 to 92 years old. But before he could shoot more people, authorities say the visiting pastor hit him with a chair and knocked him to the ground. Then members of the congregation jumped on him and hogtied his legs with extension cords. Detectives say the churchgoers grabbed 2 handguns from the suspect and subdued him until cops could get here.
That group of churchgoers displayed what we believe is exceptional heroism and bravery in intervening to stop the suspect. They undoubtedly prevented additional injuries and fatalities.
Chou was arrested and is being held on $1 million bail. He's due in court tomorrow. Last night, according to our source, investigators searched his car and found a note written in Chinese. No word on what the note said.
Wow, let's get a translator over there ASAP to see what the note says. Okay. Maybe he has a manifesto out there too. Who knows?
Also, whether it's relevant to the investigation or not, the source says Chou has a wife who lives in Taiwan who is dying from a terminal illness. Detectives are not sure if he had any connection to the church. Members of the congregation said yesterday they did not recognize him. Federal authorities are working to trace the weapons.
Well, I mean, in their defense, they kind of resemble, so to recognize him would be to recognize the whole congregation. I'm not trying to make it sound crazy, but I ain't gonna lie. Like, when I seen them George Floyd and them, I was like, they kind of look all like kin. I ain't gonna lie.
They recovered here. And the mayor pro tem of this retirement community, where violence rarely happens, has a message to her neighbors.
We need to stand strong. We need to condemn the kind of hatred that moves people to do these things. And we need to see what we can do to modify the gun culture that is so rampant in our country.
There she go, blaming the guns instead of the rice gremlin.
We're going to get some more details on this later today. The Sheriff's Department plans a news conference for 12 noon with an update on their investigation. We'll send it back to you.
And yesterday's violence left 1 dead, 5 others injured, as Carlos just pointed out. And if it weren't for the actions of 52-year-old Dr. Cheng, who was killed in the Laguna Woods attack, the number of victims is likely to be higher. And Eyewitness News reporter David Gonzalez is live in Aliso Viejo with what we're learning about Dr. Cheng. David.
Man, shout out to Dr. Cheng. He was saving lives in and outside of the hospital. So hats off to him. A real Chinese American hero, or Taiwanese American hero.
David, Dr. Cheng helped co-found the South Coast Medical Group here in Aliso Viejo, which is about 4 miles from where that shooting took place. I'm going to step aside and show you right outside of the family practice. There is a small growing memorial from his patients and also some of his colleagues who today are calling him a hero. Tonight, Dr. Cheng is considered a hero and credited with saving countless lives inside Geneva Presbyterian Church after a gunman opened fire on Sunday. Dr. Cheng was shot and killed after authorities say he rushed the shooter, giving others time to stop him from killing others.
I have no doubt that everybody that was in there would not be with us today had it not been for Dr. Cheng being there yesterday.
His work family says Dr. Cheng was not part of that church. They say he had taken his mom there for the first time since his father passed away about a month ago.
Wow, that's crazy, man. He wasn't even supposed to be there. My man didn't even go to that church. Sheesh.
They say his family is heartbroken and in shock.
They're devastated, you know. He was their man, you know, and
we've pretty much lost our master.
They say Dr. Chang was a master of martial arts and taught everyone how to protect themselves in an emergency.
That's hard. See, we need more of the Asian American community to, you know, learn martial arts, especially, I mean, I know this time it was a rice gremlin, but majority of the time these hate crimes are not committed by rice gremlins. They're usually committed by these super gremlins on demon time. But nevertheless, definitely we need more men in general to get active combat skills, whether it be with firearms, not going out and doing anything crazy, or with your hands and feet.
he was adamant that everybody should know how to defend themselves. I 100% know exactly. When they had said that he had gone across the room and charged him, I can see him doing that.
His colleagues say they always knew Dr. Cheng had a passion for medicine and healing, and now he's hailed a hero for paying the ultimate sacrifice to save others.
He was a protector, and that's exactly what he did.
And to honor him today, his co-workers say they were determined to be open to honor him the best way possible. They did close about an hour ago, and later this week or in the near future, they plan to host a memorial.
Gang violence and other